How you doing, Mr. DJ? Back on the Countdown Fantasy Playlist, October 17th, 1993. Fun record. I love these fun rock and roll records. We need more of these. Sometimes pop music gets a little too generic, and you gotta have something to shake it up a little bit. Whole lot of shaking going on. Yes, indeed. Get a Haircut by George Thorogood and the Destroyers. This song delivered with such. It was a remake too, delivered with such great aplomb and the sense of humor in this record. Here's classic rock flourishing in the midst of grunge, Nirvana, Alice in Chains, Pearl Jam, and now you got George Thorogood bringing back some of that old school rock and roll, man. He's feeling the blues too. I tell you what, he's covered songs by Bo Diddley. One of the songs that he covered by Bo Diddley, Who Do You Love? Bo Diddley song that came out back in 1956, although it didn't chart. And he covered a song by Amos Milburn. I believe it's Milborn, something like that. Well, he was a big R&B singer back in the late 40s, early 50s. One scotch, one bourbon, one beer, done by Amos Milborn back in 1953. Took it to number 2 on the R&B charts, covered by George Thorogood later on. Bad Whiskey, another one that Amos Milburn did back in 1951, was number 1 on R&B, but of course none of this didn't cross over on the pop charts. Got that great piano going in that record too. Reminds me a little bit of Fats Domino. When I listen to Amos Milburn's version of One Scotch, One Bourbon, One Beer, I hear the future in this record. Hearing people R&B stars who came along a little bit later on, like Sam Cooke and Brooke Benton, that kind of that laid-back style. Although now George Thorogood does a sort of a different version of a rocket, sort of a more of a rocking version of that record. One Scotch, one bourbon, one beer. Start off with a soda and let's go, baby. Let's go to town. Get a haircut. Now here's the song. Here's the deal about Get a Haircut. George Thorogood, he was hanging out. This was around 1969, 1970. George Thorogood, he was hanging out at a bar in Australia. It was called Black Marlin Club, a nightclub in Australia. 2 guys were on stage performing, and George Thorogood and his band were watching these 2 guys. One of the songs they did was called Get a Haircut. George Thorogood was like, oh God, this is just fantastic. I gotta go up to these guys and ask about this record. So he goes up to these 2 performers. Who wrote this record? And it was written by Bill Birch and David Avery. And George Thorogood, I gotta cover this record. I gotta do it. That's what it's these sources of inspiration. You just want to do it. It just blows you away so much. I gotta do it. I gotta do my take on this. But it took George Thorogood about 20 years to actually record this record because he had trouble laying down the guitar riff or something in the recording studios, but by the time the album Haircut came out in 1992, he finally got the riff down. Bad to the Bone. Remember Bad to the Bone, man? He was just badass on George Thorogood, man. He just, remember the video? Bo Diddley was in that video. They were playing pool together, him and Bo Diddley in that video. And let's go to this album. This album's got some remakes in there. The album Haircut. Let's see if I can go to it real quick. He covers Willie Dixon's I'm Ready, written by legendary bluesman Willie Dixon. Bo Diddley's Cops and Robbers is on this album Haircut. Howling from a Baby, Willie Dixon and Howlin' Wolf, man. He's going back on that R&B, the blues, the whatever you want to call it. He covered a song called Gone Dead Train. One of the writers of that song, Jack Nitzsche, Phil Spector's right-hand man. Jack Nitzsche produced Elusive Butterfly by Bobby Lynn. What a beautiful record back in the winter of 65 and 66. Added all those strings, those lovely strings to that record, Jack Nitzsche. Well, anyway, a song by Jack Nitzsche on that album by George Thorogood. But let's get back to George Thorogood, man. Got that classic rock. I'm thinking, well, there's that 70s influence, the 60s and 70s influence. You got the Rolling Stones, CC Top, maybe the Dwight Twilley Band. And then you go back, you got that blues template, that rockabilly template, the early R&B, the Bo Diddley and Amos Milburn. I think I got his name right. Yeah, Milburn. I'm sorry, it's Milburn, Milburn. Did a little bit of heavy research on all this before I did the video because it was pretty inspiring. Another thing I got to tell you about. Oh my God. The album Haircut was co-produced by a guy named Terry Manning. Now, Terry Manning, he worked with Stax Records, the legendary Stax Records based out of Memphis for a number of years. But later on, he worked with, God, everybody. Johnny Winter, Iron Maiden, Al Green. He was an engineer, a mixer. He dubbed things. Now, when he was with Stax Records, well, for a while, he was part of Al Bell's production team. Al Bell, who produced some hits by the Staple Singers, and Terry Manning was his assistant. Terry Manning would overdub the vocals. He played some instruments too on some of these sessions, and he did some mixing, overdubs. I mean, the guy was very talented. On the song "I'll Take You There," he played lead guitar on that song. Terry Manning did, and he dubbed in the horn section, the Memphis horn section, and "Respect Yourself." That was after the Staple singers laid down their vocals. Of course, he also played a role in that song I love so much by the Staple Singers, "Heavy Makes You Happy." Oh, God, back in 1971, yes. My goodness, so we got a lot of that old school. We got a bunch of old school streams coming into this ocean. The ocean of George Thorogood and the Destroyers. The old school rock and roll, the R&B, is all fluxing together in a state of cosmic flux right there. All right, get a haircut, get a job. Well, I can relate to that. Sounds like something your parents would say. Oh my goodness. George Thorogood at number 16, up from 18. Get a haircut. Fantasy playlist, October 17th, 1993.